And wherever you are, go ahead and share tonight's episode with someone, with a friend. And if you're driving in your car, let someone know where they can hear TMG.
It's time to get on board. TMG is taking off.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to TMG. I'm your host, Travis Patton Sr. I enjoy discovering and sharing real-life moments of inspiration from everyday people. And this show is about finding moments of inspiration for our everyday lives. And look, and if you're going to tell me something, then tell me something good. Hi, everybody! Welcome to a new episode of TMG. I'm your host, Travis Patton Sr. Hey, guys, real quick, do me a favor. Don't forget to visit, share, and subscribe to our YouTube page. Let's Tell Me Something Good with a capital T. And as always, before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to my biggest supporter, my biggest fan, my lovely wife, Nicole. Hey, girl, how you doing? I know you're watching. I know you're listening. Man, today's episode is going to be amazing. It's going to be one that you will remember, and I am excited to have the opportunity to share it with you. Thank you, everybody. That's right. Go ahead. Come on in, everybody. Whether you are watching right now on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or the other social media platforms, or maybe you're going back and you're streaming this over Spotify or on Pandora or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to TMG. Thank you, everybody. I'm so excited. I'm so happy that you decided to stop in and listen to today's episode. I am really excited. And whether you are listening in Canada or the Philippines or in France, or maybe you're listening in Germany or maybe the UK, wherever you are listening, thank you so much for tuning in each week and listening to the show. And if this is your first time tuning in, thank you, everybody. Do me a favor, if you will. If this is your first time tuning in and you're watching this, do me a favor, if you will, type the word new. Yeah, just type the word new for me, if you will. Or if you're driving, go to this, say, I'm new. I appreciate everybody. I also want to thank everybody who you said, Travis, listen, I'm not new, but man, I've been listening and following your show ever since you've been on. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. I really do. Thank you. Guys, listen, everybody knows that this show is all about finding moments of inspiration in our everyday lives. So if you have an inspiring story that you'd like to tell and maybe come on a show, drop us an email at tellmesomething21@gmail.com. And you said, well, Travis, listen, man, I know someone that has an excellent story to share with your audience, but I don't want to come on the show, man. I'm a little camera shy. That's okay. You can still drop us an email at tellmesomething21@gmail.com. And you can even remain anonymous if you like. Guys, listen, we have a few affiliate sponsors that help sponsor the show. And let me tell you, thank you for all of those who have been using our sponsor links to sponsor the show. Thank you very much. We appreciate your support. The information will be in chat. I'm going to play that affiliate sponsorship information. We're going to get that out of the way. And then we're going to dive into the show because this one is going to be good. See you guys. Don't go away. We'll be right back. We're not going nowhere. Walmart is a proud associate sponsor of TMG Tell Me Something Good podcast. Please use the special link bit.ly/tell me something good and visit our sponsor. Remember, I may earn a commission when you buy through this link. Fanatics is the place to go for all of your officially licensed sports gear from your favorite sports and sports teams. Use the special link bit.ly/tell me something 21 and pay a visit to our sponsor today. Remember, I may earn a commission when you buy through this link.
Breaking your phone sucks. Breaking your phone, then trying to sell it online sucks. Breaking your phone, selling it online, only to find out that the money you'll only get for it sucks. Breaking your phone, selling it online for peanuts, shipping it, and finding out that you got scammed sucks. Gizmodo makes selling your phone fast, safe, and simple by paying you the highest price for your device. And with Gizmodo's free unlimited shipping and price guarantee, millions of people are starting to sell on Gizmodo. Fast, safe, simple. Gizmodo, the best.
There it is, guys, right there. Please visit one of our affiliate sponsors by using the links that's in the chat. Or if you swear, Travis, what, man, I'm not watching it. That's okay. Listen up for that information. Guys, today's episode, I know you've been waiting and so have I. Guys, today's episode, if you have not caught it, if you didn't catch it in the beginning, today's episode, guys, entitled Burial Grounds. Yeah, today's episode is called Burial Grounds. And I know you're probably wondering, what in the world are we going to talk about? Burial grounds. Sit back, buckle up, because this is going to be good. Have you ever, I don't know if you've ever been a kid and went to the beach, or you've seen movies or TV shows where people went to the beach, and when they went to the beach, you see things like this, and kids would be covered in sand, just buried in sand. And the only thing is showing is just their head. The arms are buried, their feet are buried, the legs are buried, and the only thing that's sticking above ground is their head. Have you ever, let me ask this question, has life ever come at you where you felt like the only thing you had was just your head above ground? Have you ever had some stuff come at you where you just felt like you were just trying to make it above ground? Have you ever been this way? Where you just seen pictures where kids or a person, they're buried in the sand, and all they have that's showing above it is just their head. And sometimes life can be the same way. It seems like we just got our head barely above ground. We just got our head barely making it. So burial ground, let's first talk about what a burial ground is, right? A burial ground is an area of land where dead people have been buried. It is a place. It's a place for the internment and remembrance of the deceased. Burial grounds can be ancient or modern, so it doesn't have to always be something that's old and dusty and cobwebs are all over the place. It can be a modern place. It can have technology associated with it. It can have a modern high ground to it. The grass can be well kept and well manicured. So it can be ancient or modern. It doesn't have to be an old tomb. It could be a new grave. So a burial ground can be many things. It is a place where dead people have been buried. It's a place of internment and remembrance where people go to remember things. The burial ground is a place where people go to remember things. It can be old, it can be modern, so they can look differently. They don't all look the same. Burial grounds don't all look the same. That's how sometimes people can buy homes and then later find out that the home was built on top of a burial ground. Because it didn't look like that. It gave no signs and no symptoms. Nothing appeared to be a burial ground. It was a land, it's a place where people go to remember. And it can look differently. It doesn't all look the same. There is not always going to be a sign saying this is a burial ground. There's not always going to be something noticeable that says this is a burial ground. You're not always going to be, listen, you could be standing right next to one and not even realize it. You could be parking your car next to one and not even realize it, because a burial ground can be different. They can be different areas, and it's a place where people go to remember. Your own mind can become a type of burial ground. Yeah, your own mind can become a place, like a type of a burial ground, where all you do is go back and remember what things used to be like. Where all you can do is go back and remember how life used to be for you. Where all you can do is go back and remember all the things life was good to you before some traumatic thing happened. All you can do is remember when and once was, and once upon a time. If all you can remember is once upon a time, I used to be able to do that. I used to be able to go. It's a burial ground. Our own minds can become a type of burial ground. Well, all we do is go back and remember the deceased dreams, the deceased hope. All you can do is remember, when I was younger, I could do this. When I had a job, I could do that. When I had supporters, I could be this. When I had friends, I could do that. It's a burial ground. Our own minds can become a type of burial ground where things are buried in our minds. And not only are things are buried in our minds, we become buried by our dreams. We become buried by our emotions. We become buried by the thoughts of what things used to be like. We become buried over how we used to be able to do. Our own minds. Is there anybody willing to be honest and say that your own mind sometimes can become a burial ground? I know you don't want to admit it. I know you don't want to talk about it. I know you don't want to say it. But the thing about a burial ground is you don't have to admit it for it to be one. A burial ground. All I can remember is when I had it good in life. All I can remember is that I remember it. It's just, and you go back and ever so often you remember what it was like. Ever so often you talk about what it used to be like. Ever so often, and what people call it, they call it the good old days. Burial ground. Your mind can become a type of burial ground. A person can be buried under their own thoughts of worry and anxiety. buried under negative perspective and low self-esteem, buried under racism, buried under guilt, buried under success. And yes, success can bury you so that it becomes the only thing that matters to you. Not living, but success can bury you. Listen, the thought of success can bury you. Buried under your struggle, buried under your strain, buried under the chains that your life has gone through, buried under you don't know what's going to come next, buried under the fear. They can become associated. Burial grounds can be associated with specific communities and cultures. So even your culture can provide a type of burial ground. You ever wonder why you think the same thing that everybody else around you is thinking? It's a cultural thing, and it's a burial ground. It can vary depending on communities and depending on what side of town you are on. Because what one person called bad, the other person can call good. It's a burial ground. I remember, you hear people saying, I remember when this neighborhood used to look like this. I remember when this community was like this. I remember when you could walk down the street and not have to worry about this. I remember when you could leave your doors and windows unlocked, and now it's a burial ground. Does anybody ever, do you remember the days, what it felt like? Let me put it this way. I remember when I came from New York and I lived in Tuscaloosa, Alabama with my grandmother. There were nights. The summers in Alabama are sweltering. They will beat you. The heat will get you. And I remember there were nights where we would leave the window open all night. All it had on it was a screen on the window. We would leave the window up all night, put a fan in the window to help cool us off. And you don't remember that? Nobody remembers that? Okay. So for the few of us that remember opening up that window and putting a fan in the window to cool off, you feel me? For the few of us that can recall that, I remember those days. I remember the times you could do that. So it depends on the communities where you live. I remember when you could do things like that in the community. I remember when you could walk down the street and you not have to worry about so much of the things that you're worrying about right now. It's a burial ground. People right now, they're buried under so much stress, buried under so much anxiety, buried under so much worry. And you say, well, I'm not buried under any of that. Your health is buried. You're buried under your health. This isn't right. That isn't right. Buried. Let me just ask everybody this question. What is burying you? Yeah, people who are buried under thoughts of low self-esteem. You buried under your own thoughts. You can't think good about yourself if somebody handed you a good thought. You couldn't think good about yourself if somebody wrote it out on a plaque. Buried under our own emotions. Don't know what emotions you're going to feel from the next 5 minutes. Don't know what thoughts you're going to have run through your mind in the next 10 minutes. I'm buried. What is burying you? Yeah, what is burying you? Yeah, a question like that requires honesty. A question like that requires deep thought. A question like that requires self-reflection. What is burying you? Because let's face it, guys. Life can become overwhelming. There are mounting pressures from within our jobs and careers to outperform not other smarter or younger candidates, but to outperform the rising surge of AI technology. It used to be you have to be worried and concerned about somebody younger graduating college and starting a job and outperforming you and getting your job. Now you have to be more concerned about wires and transistors and lights and AI technology taking your job. There's more pressure mounting on people. Will I have a job tomorrow, or will AI be doing my job? There was a whole strike in Hollywood, a writer's strike, all because AI, they could use AI to write the script for a movie. They could use AI and the actors and actresses' likenesses and put them in a movie, and they not even show up. Will I even be there tomorrow? Will I even have a job next week? Or you don't even know if you call a company now, if you're talking to a real person or if it's AI. You don't know if you call someone on the phone, if it's them or is it AI. It used to be you was worried about your job with another person. Now you concerned on the mounting pressures of what's going on. It's not smarter people, it's other things. There are financial pressures within families who are shrouded in the backdrop from a pandemic, and not to mention the social and political upheavals that nations across the world face. I'm not just talking about right here in the United States. There's social unrest all over the world. There's upheavals and there's things that's happening all over the world, and us pressure pushing down on people from all versions of themselves and all areas of their life. You got to be good over here, but you got to be better over here, but you got to be your best over here. All versions of themselves, financial pressures, and not to mention all the social things. And listen, and the growing mental health concerns. Not to even mention the growing mental health concerns, where people are just doing things and acting out of mental problems that's happening, of mental illness, causing people pressures everywhere, everything piling on. Everything piling on. If it's not the social thing, it's piling on. If it's not racism, it's piling on. If it's not rising prices, it's piling on. You go to the grocery store, $40 won't buy you half of what it used to buy you 20 years ago. Pressures that's piling on. All of this pressure closing around can become overwhelming. All of this pressure closing around can become overwhelming and suffocating. Feels like I can't. Some days it feels like you can't even catch your breath. You go to work. You put in all the time you're required to put in. You put in overtime, and I suffocated. I can barely catch my breath. All this stuff coming on you, and can feel overwhelming and suffocating. It reminds me a lot with everything coming on. It reminds me of a movie I was once watching, in which someone found themselves in a box while others were covering them over in the dirt. Yeah, they were in a box and someone else was just throwing things on them, just dumping things on them. They dumped more dirt on top of them. They were in this box and people were dumping dirt all over them, just piling dirt on them. They're in this box, and people were just covering them up in dirt. They were and the person that was in the box, they began banging at the box, and they began scratching at the box because they were being covered over. They began banging, and they began scratching and clawing and screaming, "Let me out! Let me out!" They began screaming and yelling and banging on the box. They were trying to do everything they knew. They were trying to do everything they knew how to let someone know they were still breathing, but they found themselves buried alive. Have you ever felt like you were being buried alive? You had family pressures, you had relationship pressures, you had job pressures, you had money problems, your own mind was playing tricks on you, telling you this and telling you that. Have you ever felt like the only thing that's on you that's able to move is this? Your head is sticking above the sand, and you're buried alive. If one more person tell me one more bad thing, buried alive. If I read one more thing on social media, buried alive. If I hear one more report in the news, buried alive. If I hear one more thing about my child, buried alive. If I think one more time about it, I'm buried alive. I never expected my life to be changed like this. Buried alive. And the person in the box was trying to do everything they can to let them know I'm still breathing. Have you ever been in a fight? I mean, for real, like in a fight for your life, but you're just trying to let people know I'm still breathing. You keep showing up for work because you're letting them know I'm still breathing. You keep showing up for the relationship, letting them know that you're still breathing. You keep showing up trying to be your best. All the while, things are covering you all over the place, and you're scratching and you're crawling and you're screaming, "Hey, I'm still breathing." Have you ever felt like life was just burying you alive? Sometimes it can feel like you have been fighting off the pressures of things and people around you while trying your very best to let others know that there's still breath in you. Yeah, you're fighting off the pressures from your family and relationships, fighting off the pressures of how the world is changing and the feelings of being left behind, fighting off the thoughts that have been trying to bury you. All the while, you have been kicking. Get back, get back. Don't cover me up. I'm still breathing. You don't cover me. Get my legs. You've been kicking. Get that off my feet. You've been kicking and screaming. Wait a minute. Don't do that. Not one more thing. Kicking and screaming because you're beginning to feel like you're being buried alive. Have there ever been moments that you are willing to admit, maybe you're in a moment right now that you feel like you're being buried alive? If it's not your health, it's your family. If it's not your family, it's job. And then it's a combination of all of it. Maybe you're starting a new business and you're trying to get new customers and trying to get new clients and trying to get your business and get yourself out there. And the pressures of starting your business are beginning to cover. I'm kicked get off. I'm trying to uncover. I'm feeling buried alive. I just trying to let everybody know that there's still breath in me. Don't cover me up just yet. There's still breath in me. I know I got pressure just like you got pressure. I feel like I'm being buried alive because burial grounds aren't just, listen to this. Burial grounds aren't just places that you go to bury what you want. Typically, when you think about a burial ground, you think about a place that you go to bury the things that you want to bury. Bury the things that you want to bury. But burial grounds aren't just places that you go to bury what you want. They are also places that have been trying to bury you. Yeah, what's burying you? Burial grounds are also places where things have been trying to bury you. They are places where things left you. They are places where no one expects you to have any type of movement. Buried alive. What's burying you? Yeah, what's burying you? It's not just where you go to bury what you want. It's what's been trying to bury you. A burial ground is also a place where things get forgotten. Yeah, it's a place where things get forgotten. I know we mentioned earlier it's where things are remembered. A burial ground is a place of endearment and where people remember things. But listen, let me help you out. Just because you remember it now don't mean you'll remember it tomorrow. Yeah. It's a place, a burial ground is a place where things get forgotten. Have you ever heard of the old saying, out of sight, out of mind? Yeah, it's an old saying that says out of sight, out of mind. And what that means is the longer it's out of my sight, the better chances you will soon forget some things about it. And the longer you're not around it, the better it will be for you to forget some details about it. Yeah, out of sight, out of mind, because the longer you go without something you were accustomed to being around, some of the details will get forgotten. Yeah, that's right. All it takes is time, baby. All it takes is time. The longer you go without being around something that you are accustomed to being around, some of the details will be forgotten. Yes, some of the details will be forgotten, will get forgotten. I'm not saying you don't remember. What I am saying is some of the details become sketchy. Yes, some of the details will become sketchy over time, and we have to fill in the missing pieces because we don't remember all of the details. So we have to fill in the missing pieces because we don't remember all of the details. Isn't that amazing that over time you can forget some of the details of some of the things you said you'd never forget? Over time, you can forget details of things you said you'd always remember. That over time, you can forget details of things you said you would always have in your mind. And so we're filling in the details because over time, we forgot. Let's talk a minute about that. When I talk about filling in the details, let's do this. Let's talk a minute to anyone who has been filling in the pieces of life. Yeah, it's been over time. Time has passed, and now you're just filling in the pieces of life because you can't remember all the details of your life. You can't remember what you were like when you were 20. You can't even remember what you were like when you were 40. You can't even remember what you were like when you were happy. You can't remember the last time it was like, the last time you really smiled, the last time you really enjoyed yourself, the last time you really enjoyed your family, the last time you really enjoyed being around people. And all this time, all you have been doing is just filling in the pieces of life. Let's talk a minute to anyone who has been filling in the pieces of life. Let's talk about those things that you haven't been around in so long that all you can do now is fill in the pieces. Let's talk about the career that you no longer have, that you thought you would have until you retired, and you haven't been able to really discuss it because it's been such a long time that all you can do is just fill in the pieces. Let's talk about the relationship that went sideways and you never expected things to go as far as they did. And now all you can do is remember what it was like before the problems, but the details are sketchy. The details are sketchy. And all you could do at this point is fill in the pieces. Let's talk about the business ideas and dreams you had. You started out in life with such vigor, such energy. I'm going to do it. I'm going to achieve it. I'm going to be it. I'm going to do it. Can't stop me. Won't nothing stop. I know I can accomplish it. You started out in life with such dream and full of hope and such vigor and excitement. Now, if someone were to ask you what your goals are and what your dreams are, it's sketchy because all you can do is try to fill in the pieces. This is what listen, it's all you can do is try to fill in the pieces. Listen, this is what makes life so precious. This is what makes each of us so unique because everyone that we meet is just trying to fill in the pieces. One person may have been able to fill in more pieces than another, but we are all trying to fill in the pieces. And it's not that there aren't other things you'd like to talk about and discuss, but all you can remember is bits and pieces. So when I'm talking about it, I'm filling in the pieces. Don't get mad at me because that's all I can talk about. Because at this point in my life, I can't even remember the last time I had it good. So when you hear me keep talking about it, I'm only filling in the pieces. I know it's not that I don't want to talk about something else, but this is all I can remember. I'm filling in the pieces. All of us are just trying to fill in the pieces. We don't have it together. We aren't perfect. So we're just trying to fill in the pieces, baby. We don't have halos over our head or wings on our backs. We make mistakes sometimes. We don't get it right sometimes. We make the wrong decisions sometimes. And we find ourselves just trying to fill in the pieces. We talk about relationships that end, but we don't share all the details. We talk about the business ideas we had and the books we said we were going to write. and how they never got off the ground, but we can't share the details. Don't judge me because I'm just like you. I'm just trying to feel in the pieces, baby. And you know, and listen, and you know how some people are, right? You know how some people are. You know how some people will only share. They'll tell you, man, the relationship was terrible. They'll tell you the relationship ended. You ask them how the person how that person is they're in the relationship with. Oh man, I've been over that girl. Oh man, I've been over that person. Oh girl, I've been over him. Oh man, that's nothing. It's over. He's no good. She's no good. And we'll tell them how bad the relationship was. We'll tell them, oh, it was awful. And we'll talk about something. We'll talk bad about something that we was a part of. And we'll talk bad about something that we were a part of. And you know how some people will only share part of the story? You know what I mean. The part that makes them look good. They'll tell you that the relationship ended, but won't tell you the part they played in it. Now, I'm not talking. Now, I understand that there are times when a relationship goes bad, whether it's a business deal or a personal relationship. I understand there are times things go bad because some folks could just be cuckoo. I get it. But if it's not one of those off the wall situations, if it's not one of those one-off situations, then you tell the part of the story that makes you look good, but won't tell the part that you played in it. They'll tell you they were fired from their job. Yeah, that company fired me. I'll never purchase another thing from that company. I'll never support that company ever again. Oh, they were a terrible company to work for. They'll tell you they lost their job, but they won't tell you how they were always late to the job. They won't tell you how the people kept telling you, you got to stop being late. You got to start showing up on time. They'll tell you they lost their job, but they won't tell you how they were always late and how they gave them 5 or 6 chances to get it right and to do better. So the story, when people tell you their story, listen, so the story you're hearing is just the part in which they are feeling in the pieces. Yeah, they just feeling in the pieces. Listen, because a burial ground is not just about what you want to bury. It's also about what's trying to bury you. What is burying you? No one, I don't care who you are, no one likes the feeling of being forgotten. No one does. No, it doesn't matter if you're 2 years old or 102. No one likes the feeling of being forgotten. No one, is not a good feeling. No one likes that feeling at all. Nobody. Let me give you an example. I remember when I was a kid, I was always the shortest. I was always the skinniest. I never had a lot of height, so I was always the shortest. It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me at all. So I was always the shortest. So I remember. Do you remember how it felt as a child? I remember how it felt as a child when we would go outside to play basketball, play a sport like basketball, and how because I was so short, I was always either the last picked or the last chosen, or I was never picked or never chosen because I was so short. They didn't know whether I could play or not, but they just looked at me and said, oh, he's too short to jump. He's too short. They didn't know whether I could shoot or not. They didn't know if I could dribble or not. They just looked at me and said, well, you're too short. You won't be able to play this game because you're too short. We're not going to pick you because you're too short. We're not going to choose you because you're too short. And I would stand there. Like, how in the world are you not going to choose me? I got my new shoes on. Don't you know how fast I can run in my new shoes? Don't you know how high these new shoes make me jump? How you not gonna pick me? Has that ever happened to anybody? When you're out being chosen for team sports and they never chose you for one reason or the other, they never picked you for one reason or the other. They chose everybody else, but never chose you. It seems like they always pick the same people. How are you not going to choose me? Don't you know how fast I can run in these shoes? Has that ever happened to anybody out there? You were the one they never chose. You were the one they didn't pick. You were the one they did not select. And they didn't choose you. They didn't pick you. And they chose everybody else to be on their sides, but they didn't choose you. You had your new shoes on, and they still didn't choose you. You had your new pants on, and they still didn't choose you. You had your hair pulled back, and you was ready, but they still didn't choose you. It's amazing. We do all the things to prepare to be chosen, and they still didn't choose you. And you wonder, how could they forget you standing there like you didn't even exist? And sometimes, with us, sometimes it really didn't matter which side we was chosen for, as long as we was chosen. You just wanted to get picked. And then later on, they found out they should have picked you. They found out they would have had a better chance if they had picked you. They could have stayed in the game longer if they had picked you. They could be bragging instead of complaining if they had picked you. Let me say this real quick. This part is for anybody who didn't get picked. Yeah, this part right here is for anybody who didn't get picked. Everybody who had a decision to make to pick you and they did not. Everybody who had the power to pick you and did not. This part is for you. Listen up. For everybody who did not pick you, who could have had it better if they had picked you, let me say this to you. They missed out. Yeah. Everybody who could have chosen you but did not, they missed out. Everybody that had a decision, everybody that had a hand in the decision to choose you or not, and if they didn't choose you, they missed out. Don't cry about it another day. Don't you shed another tear over it another day. Don't you get mad about it another day. Don't you remember it another day. They missed out. They might have been able to avoid some things, but they missed out. It might not have taken them as long to accomplish what they needed, but they missed out. And if you know they missed out on you, if you know they missed out by not picking you, put it in a chat. Say they missed out. Yeah, if you're watching this and you know they missed out by not picking you, if you know they missed out by not choosing you, do me a favor. Type it in chat. They missed out. Yeah, you need to say it to yourself. You need to remind yourself, they missed out on me. They missed out on me. They didn't choose me, so they missed out on me. Put it in chat. Say it to yourself. You know I'm a firm believer of positive confession. That tomorrow morning, when you wake up, before you start your day, look in the mirror. Tell yourself they missed out. The next time you feel bad about yourself, tap yourself on the shoulder. Tell yourself they missed out. They could have had it, but they missed out. They had a chance, but they missed out. They could have avoided some stuff, but they missed out. Pull yourself to the side. They missed out. Say it to yourself. Look yourself in the mirror. Listen, as a matter of fact, pull out your phone. Look yourself real good in the camera, eyeball to eyeball, and say, they missed out. Yeah, tell yourself, they missed out. Look yourself directly in your camera. If you got a phone, if you got a mirror, if you're by a lake, if you're by a brook, if you're by a stream, they missed out. Yeah, type it in chat. Say it. They missed out. But no one enjoys the feeling of being forgotten. You were scratching and crawling your way at that box, scratching and crawling your way. And not because everything that life is throwing on you. You weren't scratching and crawling because everything life was throwing on you. And when I mentioned that story about the movie where the man was being buried alive in the box by the dirt, the man has seen dirt before. The man has seen dirt all his life. He wasn't scratching and crawling because of dirt. He was scratching and crawling to let somebody know that he's still breathing. The fight that some of us in hasn't been because it's been too much. The fight that some of us in is because you're just trying to let somebody know that you're still breathing. If you've ever watched a television show or a movie where a person was being buried alive, they would scream and yell to do whatever they had to do to remind people that they're still breathing. You scratched and clawed your way through childhood diseases. You scratched and clawed your way through all manners of inequalities. You scratched and clawed your way through rising prices and changing times. You scratched and clawed your way through business ideas that didn't pan out. You scratched and clawed your way through a pandemic that killed thousands of people. Don't stop now. Don't let them forget about you. Let them throw all the dirt on you they want. You're still breathing. Let them post what they feel like on social media. You're still breathing. Is there anybody that ever felt like they were forgotten about? Is there anybody that ever felt like they were forgotten about that can relate to what I'm saying? They throwing stuff on you. They're talking about you. They're saying it'll never work. What makes you think you're any different? What makes you think you can do that? Older people saying they're too old, younger people saying they're too young. Don't let them forget about you. Let them know. Is there anybody that can relate? Life is throwing all this stuff on you. Family throwing things on you. Your own mind is throwing things on you. And you got to claw and dig and scratch and scream and yell and scratch your way from underneath it all. Don't forget about me. I've seen movies in which a person was being buried alive and they began clawing and scratching and trying to claw and scratch their way out of it. And if you've ever seen a picture or a movie where people were being buried alive, they would try to claw and scratch their way out of it because they want someone to know I'm still breathing. They would do everything they can because they're being buried alive. If you saw that person before they were covered over, if you saw that person before they were in that situation, if you saw that person before they were in that situation, you would never think, you wouldn't think that they would claw and scratch and scream and yell. If you saw them before they were in that situation, you would never think that they would act like this. If you saw them before they were in that situation, you never would have thought that they would behave like that. They were so dignified. They were so together. They had it together. They had the degrees and they had all the things together. They seem to always know the right thing to say. They seem to always know the right things to do. But if you saw them before that situation, they always seem to have it together. You wouldn't think you would ever see them in a position like this. And the only reason they're kicking and scratching and clawing, trying to claw their way out is because they've never been buried alive. The only reason you never saw them like this is because you never saw them being buried alive. The only reason you always saw them holding together is because you never saw them being buried alive. So the first point to this, because before this, they would never do this. Before you saw them in this situation, they would never act like this. Before you saw them in this situation, they would never behave like this. So how do I get out of this burial ground? How do I get from being buried alive? So the first point is this. If you want to get from being buried alive and get out of this burial ground, so the first point is this. The first point is this. In order to get from under what was trying to bury you, you've got to do something you've never done before. Before that situation, you never would have thought they would act like that. Before you saw them in that situation, you thought you'd never see them scream and yell and claw and dig. So the first thing is to get from under something that's burying you. You've got to try something new. Yeah, you've got to try something that you've never tried before. You've got to try something new. If you want to come from under what's been covering you, you've got to try something new. You got to be like those people in that box. You may have never screamed before. You got to scream. You may never kick before. You got to kick. You may never clawed your way out before. You got to start clawing, baby. You got to do something you ain't never done. You got to act like you ain't never act because you don't want to be buried alive. You got to try something new. You can't just lay there and hope you'll come from under it. You just can't stand there and hope that things will work out. This is one of those times you've got to try something new. This is one of those times you got to scratch and claw and dig your way out. So, one of the first things you got to do when you want to come from under what's been burying you is you got to try something new. Also, this person in this movie that I was watching, I noticed the closer they got to the surface, the closer they came to the surface, other things got in their way. And while their hands were busy clawing and scratching, while their hands were busy clawing and scratching, I saw this person do something I didn't see anybody else do before. They leaned forward and they took a big bite. They leaned forward and took a large bite out of something. With their teeth. They leaned forward, and with their teeth, they took a bite out of something. They took a large bite out of something so they could move a little more. Second point, when you want to come from under something that's been burying you, you've got to find something that you can sink your teeth into. Yeah, find something you can sink your teeth into. It no longer matters what did not work. It no longer matters who is still there and who left you. It no longer matters what others think about you. You didn't know you were that good at something until you sunk your teeth into it. You didn't know you had that much potential in you until you found something you could sink your teeth into. You didn't know those types of talents and abilities and potential were still in you until you found something you could sink your teeth into. It doesn't matter how good a cake looks. You will never taste it until you sink your teeth into it. Life could be sweeter if you just found something you could sink your teeth into. And listen, you can't go about being cute about it. You can't be casual about it. You've got to be like a lion. You got to find something to really sink your teeth into. I can't be cute about it. I can't be cute about it. I got to find something to sink my teeth into. When a lion comes on the scene, the other animals know that conflict could break out at any time because a lion will try to sink its teeth into almost everything. But at this point, it's about survival. Listen, find something you can sink your teeth into. Point number two, find something that you can sink your teeth into. Our grandson, Amir, we love our grandson, Amir. We love having him over the house. And our grandson, Amir, loves coming over to the house. He does. I mean, that kid enjoys being at the house, and we enjoy having him over. He likes the fact that when he comes over, it's all go, no stop, no breaks. Oh, he's gone. Let's play tag, let's play ball, let's swim. It's all go, no breaks for him. And he loves that. He likes how we engage with him, run and play and jump. He likes the fact that we get on the floor and play cards with him. He enjoys being at our home, and we enjoy having him there. And for a while, when he had to go home, when he had to leave and go home with his mom, he would cry. He would cry because he didn't want to leave. Yeah, that was the time he would cry, all because he did not want to leave. And to be honest, we really didn't want him to leave either. Yeah, we didn't. We finally figured out why he cried so much each time he left. We finally figured it out. We scratched our heads. Why is he always crying? Why is he crying so much? I know his mom is treating him right. We know she's, nothing's going on there. Why is he crying so much every time he left? It was because he didn't know when he would come back. He didn't know how soon he would see us again. And so now that he's older, when he leaves, he doesn't cry. And we knew it. We knew it because his mom, they were living at least 2 hours away from us in another city, at least 2 hours away. And that drive, 2 hours is a lot. So he didn't know when he would see us again. So he would cry when he would leave. But now that he's older, he doesn't cry when he leaves. He doesn't cry. And when he comes back, what he does is this. He jumps out the car. He jumps out the car, runs up to both of us, gives us a hug, or whichever one that meets him at the car, gives us a big hug, and with his eyes full of excitement in his eyes, he looks at us, and at the top of his voice, he looks back at us and says, "I'm back." The final point I want to make is this. If you want to get from under what has been trying to bury you, you must be convinced that no matter how long it's been, you're coming back. If no one else believes in you, if no one else sees it happening for you, you must believe and see it happening for yourself. We were glad to see him come back. You have to get around people who are excited to see you come back. You've got to get around people who have been waiting for your comeback. All the people that has been waiting for your comeback. People say they don't have enough support. Maybe they've been waiting for your comeback. Yeah, there is somebody right now that has been waiting for your comeback. Listen, it doesn't matter how long it's been. This is your comeback. You've got to get around people that have been waiting for your comeback. Some people didn't know you were coming back. They thought the last place they left you would be the same place they would find you. You have to send somebody a text message. Even if you have to send somebody a text message, some kind of way, let somebody know I'm back. Let somebody know I'm back. Type it in chat. It took a little while, but I'm back. You had some dirt on your hands from digging your way out, but I'm back. You may be a little bit older than you were when you left, but I'm back. You didn't start just so you could quit. You started so that you could finish. If you know you are coming back, do me a favor. Type it in chat. I'm back. If you know you're coming back, type it in chat. Say it to yourself. If you have to say it to yourself, I'm back. Do me a favor. Take a selfie with your camera. If you got a camera, take a selfie right now and post that picture in the chat and say with the caption, I'm back. Guys, it's about that time. And as always, it's been a real blast. I want to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Guys, don't forget, you can stream your favorite episode each Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Central, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Or you can also stream on your favorite listening platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and so many more. I got to get out of here, guys. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. You can tune in right here or the stream or join our YouTube page. That's Tell Me Something Good with a capital T. I got to get out of here. But as always, in imparting, if you're going to tell me something, then tell me something good. I'm out of here, y'all. I got to go. Peace.